Thanks for coming back. This video now, what we're going to look at pen skin weights. So what we're going to do is, and what's a really useful thing to do is pose your character up in different extreme poses to see kind of where you're at, how it's going to deform. So straight away we know that these arms are bending, okay, but we know that this is going to be kind of influenced with this sort of area here. That's fine. So let's go back to bind pose there. Okay, so maybe the best thing to do is flex your character around and see what's working. Use the joints, see what's bending and how it's bending. So just select each of these different joints and try to get it in a different key poses. So now that the hair's a bit sort of skew with, go skin, pen skin weights tool, and you basically presented this effectively a black and white map image. So what you would do is you'd right click over the joint, so move your mouse over the joint, or you point it over the joint, right click, hold it down, and you're presented with this little pick wheel, and select influence is basically the option you want. Hit the little hammer tool, and it now brings you to a hierarchical view or a list. You can change it by hierarchy. At the minute it was set to flat, hierarchical, alphabetical. Hierarchy is probably a little easier to sort of see a parent-child relationship with each of those joints. But basically you can see which joints have what influence. And how do you sort of see that? Via this black and white map. Basically the white means, or the nearer to white means that is set to a value of 1. So around about those vertices are influenced very highly by the particular joint that you have selected. So around about here, it's got a high level of influence. Down here, less so. In fact, black is none. So if I was to rotate this, you should see a slightly gradual fall off between this. But remember that down the chain, all of these joints have their own influence attached to that particular sort of area of the skeleton. So you can see there that there's a softer fall off back here. Actually, we probably don't want that to be influenced. We kind of want this joint to have that influence. So select the mesh, back to the little paint weights influence tool, right click, select influence, and we basically need to set this. Rather, at the moment, this is like a grey. Like I was saying before, black is 0, white is 1, so black is no influence, white is full influence. We need to basically set this so that this joint has full influence over this joint. Now if you toggle between 1, 2 and 3, you'll see your mesh in different sort of stages of resolution. So low res, proxy, smooth mesh. So if you toggle between them, you can see that sometimes it can be quite useful to paint your mesh, and you can see all these little crevices, and obviously 1 makes it a lot harder, but 1 is more accurate. 3 just means that you're seeing your mesh smooth out. So toggle between them when you come to paint your weights will affect how you kind of work. See there, I wasn't hitting that vertex. The reason for that was because it was down here. It's really important that you toggle between 1, 2 and 3 when you come to paint those influences. Okay, select this joint. Grab this, because you do kind of want this area to influence this part of the joint. Right click, select influence. You can see there this part of the edge loop is kind of within this joint, so I would be more inclined to sort of paint that influence to there, or set that influence to there. So right click, select influence to this joint. That's just, and you're basically creating like a nicer fall off by not taking the default weights that Maya sets. Don't ever take the default weights that Maya sets. Investigate it a little bit and see what you get. You can see there we're refining this influence of the joints. We're giving a better kind of look to this sort of curve. So now if we've curved all those joints, they should be a little bit more relative and within. See the angle of them. You're getting a better sort of curve with them. Okay, so let's go back to bind pose. So go skin, go to bind pose. You know, now we know that if I'm rotating that, see there how it's pulling this joint. So what we need to do is select the mesh, paint influence. I want this to just be parented to the head. This influence to be more so to the head. Sorry, it's set to add. The value is 1. Paint this influence on. You can see it kind of pinching a little bit there. You know, and you might need to then you might need to reduce the size of the brush. Hold B to make it bigger or smaller. So just B, paint the influence that way. So let's have another little look, see what we get when we rotate this joint for the hair. It shouldn't be pulling anything, so what we need to do is right click, select influence for this joint, and this joint actually has influence. So what we need to do with this joint is remove the influence from down here. So select replace, set the value to 0, and then make the brush a little bigger maybe, and reduce that. And then when you remove the influence, you can see it kind of popping back into shape, back into position where it sort of should be sitting, or where you would maybe expect that that influence to sort of be. So I'm just going to remove, see there how this joint here is actually influencing a fair bit of the head. We don't want that influence. We want it to be attached almost to the head. So again, make this brush smaller. You might need to toggle to 1 to see where's a little easier. And if we just brush over, you can see it'll kind of, if we go near the vertex, or try to go near the vertex, you can see it's just popping. So this is where I try to mention is to not all, when you come to modeling, don't always rely subdivision level 3. But I know a lot of us do. So see there, that's given us a lot better influence now. A few little areas that we need to kind of look at. So right click, select influence. We'll maybe need to just add. So back to add, brush size, maybe add this influence back to this joint. So it is a bit of a kind of battle. You remove an influence, add an influence, you paint an influence, you remove an influence, and you're just specifying which joint is going to have more control over a particular area of the mesh than other parts. So it's really important that you kind of understand how this works. It's a really difficult concept to initially get your head around, but once you get it, it's much easier. But you can see there, this is kind of working a little better. This joint now, when we rotate this, no influence on the back of the head, a little bit there, but I can live with that, that's fine. Let's have a little look at these ears. So let's just rotate these ears. Let's just rotate them both down. So the quicker, let's see what joints we'll have. So this head here, let's say, is joint 10. We should really be renaming our joints, which we'll look at after we've maybe done the skinning of this. So we know that this head is joint, joint 9. Joint 9 fine for the head, that's okay. But obviously when we're rotating these ears, we don't want the ears to be influenced. So obviously we can use the paint weights tool to add influence. But also what we're going to do is we can right click on the mesh, right click, vertex, select the vertex that we're wanting to grab. And there's a few ways that we can do this. We can either go, let's just select these vertices and maybe turn symmetry on. It should select all of this. I don't think it actually has selected everything, but okay. I'll let it off. It is my. What we could do, select these vertices. We could go to Windows, General, Component Editor. through the skins and set this or specify this to be joint 9, which interestingly enough, it isn't actually in that list. Okay, or what we could do is go back to the paint weights tool. We've locked off this these vertices as a selection back to this little hammer tool here, tool settings. And what we want to do is within each of the ears is we want to remove that influence. So we've set replace, value to 0, right click on the joint, select influence. And now what we can do is, rather than painting it, we can hit the flood button and you'll see what happens. It floods it, it pops it back up here. Right click, select this joint, flood, it'll pop it back up. Right click this joint, flood, it'll pop it back up, or any influence that's there, it'll flood, pop it back up, right click, flood, pop it back up. So same again, right click on this joint, flood, it'll pop it back up, right click, select influence, flood, and we've isolated it to these vertices here. We haven't, we're not selecting any other influence or any other part of the mesh. It is purely going to be influenced or adjusting weights to these vertices on these kind of parts of the. But also, what's kind of interesting is when these ears wiggle, it's actually pulling parts of the head. So let's maybe select mesh. Let's go back to this head, select influence. And then what we want to do is add now, because this back part of the head with these ears is actually getting pulled down. So we don't want it to get pulled down. We want it to obviously remain intact. We don't want it to be getting crumpled in. We want it to remain solid. So all we do, paint the influence back in. Really easy. It's just about understanding sort of addition and subtract of the weights, how that works. So again, let's have a little look. Just rotate. And, you know, again, yes, we might need to make some more final kind of adjustments to the mesh. Maybe what we'll do is we select these vertices around the and perhaps select around. This is where it's easier to be working in subdivision level 1 sometimes. We'll maybe hide the joints for the time being. It's just about sort of understanding, right, okay, what we could actually do is select the ears. Let's go, actually, this might be a quick way to do this. Just select the mesh, go to bind pose, hide the joints, select the ear, add the selection, so I'm holding shift and right arrow key, it's adding to the selection. That's okay. And then maybe go to select, invert selection, bring the joints back up, paint weights tool, select these joints, select influence, and then let's just go to remove. Remember, when we've got these vertices selected, it's just going to remove any influence from the vertices we've got selected. Hit flood. Let's remove that influence. Right click on this joint, flood. Let's remove that influence. Right click on this. So just basically going through the motions of each of these different sort of joints. Now you can kind of see it's actually, right click there, select influence, so it'll remove a lot of that influence, but we do have a little bit just by the ear, so if we then rotate this ear, it's just bending a tiny bit too much. So we just need to, and what we could do with the vertex selected is, again, extend that selection to maybe there, back to skin weights tool, and then flood, remove, that's a bit better, right click, select influence, remove. It's actually going to give us, or hopefully going to give us a much more gradual fall off as well. So there we go, that's better. You're just getting that. So there's different ways that we can select things. So select, invert selection, just selecting individual vertices. You can, mine kind of crazy. Select vertex, and we can just isolate particular regions of the mesh that we want to isolate and just work on. So that's kind of it really for the sort of paint and weights. And you basically go through that whole mesh and sort of try to find any problem areas. You'd pull out the mesh, the different extremities, and see what was kind of working, where it was crumpling in a little bit too much, and you would just basically adjust that influence to see where it was over crumpling, and you'd use the paint weights tools to kind of help you out there. So you just bend the mesh around, rotate things around, see what you're getting. Different poses. And obviously we'll start looking at things like sort of corrective weighting in the next few videos. And you just pull this, rotate these joints all over and just sort of say, is that bending a bit too much maybe? Has that got a bit too much influence, too little influence? And then you just sort of adjust it accordingly. So there you can see that this is kind of, we're twisting. It's retaining that volume quite well. It's not horrendous. This is sort of, let's maybe go back to bind pose. Let's maybe just twist this up a touch. Let's just rotate this around. Let's just start to pose it up maybe, how you perhaps might think of posing it up. And then this is how you would kind of, you'd be able to distinguish sort of weights, whether we're working well, whether we weren't working well. And this is where we maybe look to get some IK in the legs and stuff. And we'll look at that in the next few videos. Maybe this is a little bit over rotated perhaps. So you just sort of tone this back. And maybe you just pause the character up to sort of say, yeah, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm happy with this. The way that this is deforming is quite nice. Is it working? Isn't it working? With these sort of corrective shapes. And on the whole, I would say so. I think I think on the whole that works quite nice. There's just a few little areas that we might need to refine some more, particularly the mouth. So what I'll probably do is I think I'll go away. So she's just being shot with an arrow. Right between the eyes. This arrow. Choose the pivot point. So yeah, the next video, what we're going to do is I'll kind of go away. I'll look at the skin weights and I'll sort of talk over any kind of areas that are problematic that you need to sort of look at. Yeah, there'll be a series of videos of the paint and skin weights, and this space in particular will need quite a bit of work. She's been shot through the eyes. But remember, we added this extra control. Yeah. Yeah, so that's maybe something that we need to look at in the next video, is just start looking at these individual, more complex individual clusters that we need to maybe refine. So that's the sort of process that you would use. You bend your character into different extreme poses, see what you're getting. If it's working, fantastic. If it needs a bit of work and more refinement, you would just start looking at the paint skin weights, potentially maybe revisiting adding in corrective joints. So I'm just going to save that out, and I'll see you in the next video.